Foster is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to our witnesses. I probably stayed up later than I should have last night reading Mr. Benda's excellent testimony. And the thing that struck me over reading that is that identity fraud was at the core of every single one of the frauds, the long list of frauds, whether it's the text message that starts a long romance scam or whatever it is. The point to stop this is at the beginning, and the tool at hand is to provide people with a means of proving they are who they say they are in an online environment. And because of inaction by the federal government, states are doing this. They're standing up what's called the mobile ID, the digital driver's license. This is simply connecting your real ID compliant driver's license issued to the state, which is a pretty unique identity that cannot be it's very difficult to get many fraudulent copies of the real ID. We've done a pretty good job federally on that. But then what you do is you associate that with your cell phone, take advantage of the fact that a modern cell phone is like a security dongle. It has a unique secret ID in there. It's a unique device in the world, and when it gets associated with a real ID, that allows you to prove you are who you say you are in a legally traceable method online. And certainly for every time you open a bank account, that has to be an option to people. Because if you even talk about the check washing fraud that we're talking about, they say, okay, you transfer that to a fraudulently open bank account. Well, guess what? If you're in other countries, just pick your country, say Korea, you want to open a bank account, you get out your cell phone and you prove you are who you say you are, and you can open the account like that because that has been compared against a list of bad actors. You are a single legally traceable person with responsibility for that account. And it does not happen in countries that have done this. And the U.S. has fallen behind on this. Countries around the world understand that you need to be able to prove you are who you say you are. We can do everything that we want with trying to identify patterns of fraud and all of the deep fake impersonations, but the bad guys are getting sophisticated too fast for that. The other side of the coin that they'll never be able to beat is when you have a cryptographic assurance of being able to prove you are who you say you are. And the tool at hand is the mobile ID that's being rolled out by many, digital driver's license rolled out by many states. And this is the real answer to this, and I think that we have to use this for federal government purposes. We've gotten very close to, for federal government purposes, to having motion in both the House and the Senate, never in the same session, but the time is past for that. I think that if industry had access to a simple, efficient way for people to prove they are who they say they are, there would be huge adoption immediately and a dramatic drop in fraud. Does anyone, that whole little spiel I just gave, is there any details you think need to be corrected on that, or do you all agree that that's a...
Congressman, if I could jump in there, I'd like to thank you for your leadership in this mobile identity space. You've done a great job of pushing that issue forward, so I want to personally thank you for that. We partnered with the Better Identity Coalition. We recognize the value of mobile digital driver's license. We partner with them to send a letter to the FDIC, asking them to make sure that their examiners are aware that we can use those. We think it's a critical need to have a reservoir of truth, to be able to go back to those DMVs. Not every state participates in the DMV validation piece. Having mobile driver's license, digital authentication, we think it's critical, and we are happy to partner with you going forward on that effort to do anything we can to spur adoption of that.
Yeah, it'll be just a tremendous simplification. One of the big things we're struggling with during COVID, it was costing like $400 to onboard an unbanked person for a bank, and that was a huge barrier to getting COVID relief to people that need it the most. It did not happen in countries where you say, okay, smile at it, do your biometric login, have that cell phone prove you are who you say you are, and then and authenticate to a bank account, and boom, there is your COVID relief check. And it was heartbreaking to see the delays there and the amount of fraud. Hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money stolen by fraudsters because we do not have a decent way to prove you are who you say you are. Anyway, so I sense there's some motion, some bipartisan motion to get this to happen. because the level of fraud is just out of control.
And I just want to say, until a legislation like that is passed, that's why we need to enforce Bank Secrecy Act regulations and do supervision to ensure that fraudulent accounts aren't being opened and money isn't being laundered that way.
Yeah, and I echo everything that was said by my colleagues about the tragedy of what's been done to the CFPB, and the anti-fraud mission of the CFPB is a small part of what the damage that was done there. So I just want to thank you all and look forward to actually building some momentum on this.